Hey y'all. Hi. I'm here with my first impressions is essentially what it's going to be of the Winky Lux Cream Rose Cheek Blushes. I haven't done a self-sponsored review yet in November, so this is the first one. There might be able to be another one because these ones didn't eat up my entire budget for self-sponsored reviews, which is pretty exciting. But because of the nature of the product, I decided to open them on camera with you and try them on for the first time with you because I think that they do maybe have some promise of like a quality product or something I'll really love because I love a cream cheek, but there's also somewhat of a novelty factor, and I feel like with things that have that novelty factor, a reviewer can actually do a service by reviewing the experience of receiving the thing for the first time and trying it for the first time, because in many cases with this kind of thing, that's part of what you're buying. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Hannah. I love beautiful things, but I don't love overspending. So I review things, try on makeup, talk about fashion and the things that I love, but always maintaining a balance between that and financial stability. If that sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe. And I did forget to mention at the tail end of just that intro about the fact that this is a first impression that I will circle back obviously with a full review when I reckon with these. I will be talking about them in the future on my channel, so I'm not just gonna like do a first impressions and leave it here, but I did want to capture on film this experience that I'm about to have so that I could share it with you. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Does my hair look a mess today? I feel like it might. It's the kind of thing that kind of looks cute in person when it's just like, oh, I woke up like this, mwah, mwah, mwah. But sometimes when my hair looks like that in person and then I film, on camera, it looks a mess. Like these kinds of little wispies, they look cute in person, but on camera, it's like there's hair sticking straight out to here. So after all of that talk about it being a first impressions, I have to confess that I did physically open the box. Like I opened it. So that I opened it, I opened the little boxes, I opened the blushes, and I did touch one of them with the tip of my finger because I just couldn't stand it. I wanted to feel like how soft or hard the little petal was, but that was it. I didn't go any further than that. And part of why I did that was because I wanted to take some footage of the way that they look intact before sitting down to film this video. Even though I can't give you a review of like how these wear over time or how I end up feeling about them after days and days in this video, although as I said, I'll be returning with that review in a future video. Even though I can't do that, I did make a list of the questions that I can answer in this video. If you haven't watched these videos from me before, a lot of times what I do is I make a list of the questions that I had before I got the person, what? I make a list of the questions that I had before I got the product in my actual hands, and then I answered the questions, and that's like the format of the review. So these are the questions I'm going to be answering. Given that it's this kind of experience that I'm sharing with you, how is the shipping? How's the packaging? Like, what was the experience of ordering it? Because I ordered it from the Winky Lux site, which is, something I wouldn't ordinarily do. I just did it for review. What's it like in person? I feel like that's the burning question. Does it feel instantly delightful and like instantly worth it when you get it and you open it and you think about how much you spent on it and you think about what your expectations were? Like, are they delivering kind of on maybe the consumer expectations that are built up because of the style of the product or because of what you might be after when you're buying it? Or is it sort of instantly disappointing? I feel like with a lot of things that we buy online, the expectation doesn't match the reality, and as soon as you open the package, it's like womp womp. So I'm going to share with you which one of those I felt like it was. Then moving into the actual makeup product. So what's the physical quality of the cream roses? How does the blush apply to the cheeks? This is a big question for me. Does applying it ruin the cream rose? Like, is it going to just become mush after one or two applications? And how does it look on the cheeks? Like, what's the finish and how are the colors? I only got two colors, but I'll tell you what they are and I'll tell you what I think of them after I apply them to my little cheeks. I'm not wearing any makeup on my cheeks right now. Each blush is $20, but there was like a pop-up for your first order. I think it was 15% off. So I think I ended up paying somewhere close to $35 for the two blushes. And I think there's free shipping just like across the entire site, no matter what you order on the Winky Lux site right now. So that was kind of less than I expected to be paying, and that was good. It shipped almost immediately. I want to say that I placed this order like maybe 3 or 4 days ago, way less than a week for sure. And it arrived yesterday, I think yesterday, maybe the day before. But in any case, it shipped very quickly, and then the actual transit time was very short. I live in California. I don't know where. They ship from California too. I don't know if they always ship from there. I don't know if that's like their only warehouse or what. But this package shipped from Ontario. Oh, Canada. Ontario? No, Ontario is a city in California. And I think that that is where it shipped from. And it was priority mail one day. So that's why the whole thing happened so quickly, right? I feel like I ordered them and just a couple of days later I had them. But it's good. I mean, I think some companies are shipping from California and that doesn't happen. So obviously you won't get them as quickly as I got them if you're not in California like I am. But it's good to know that they're doing everything they can on their end to make sure that the things ship out as soon as possible and that they arrive as fast as possible. It's nice to have such quick shipping for free. So that whole part of the experience was seamless. And the next part, the next question is, what is it like in person? Like, what is it like to receive it and open it up? And that really surprised me. I think partly because I'm not a WINKY LUX person and I don't really know anything. I don't have context about the aesthetic of the brand or what it is that they're usually delivering. So I wasn't expecting this beautiful situation. Like, this interior of this box is so pretty. And the box packaging of the blushes is incredibly pretty too. And I did have a little bit of a sense of this because I had seen this on Instagram, like in the pictures on Trend Mood or something. But in person, it really blows me away. I mean, it's so pretty. It's got like these embossed gold floral things, and I really like this kind of thing. I like florals, I like gilded things, I like intricate illustrative things. So I'm very pleased by this. This is just, it's all very sweet, definitely value added for a consumer like me. These also strike me as being very giftable, and I think that the novelty aspect, the gimmick aspect, kind of adds to their giftability, because I could see someone who's not really that much of a makeup aficionado still thinking that this is really awesome. So the box came in the mail. I was like, wow, that was fast. I opened it up. I was like, cute, cute, pretty, pretty. I took out these little interior boxes and I was like, wow, glamorous, glamorous, adorable, adorable. And then I opened these little boxes and took out the blushes and I was like, wow, they are really sweet and twee, but also really sturdy feeling. Like they're much more entirely spherical than I was expecting. Like, I don't think I quite gathered that it was gonna be literally just spherical, except for the bottom is flat. I thought that it was gonna be like a rounded compact. From the pictures, there are a lot of comparisons to the Milani blushes. A lot of people took one look at the pictures and were like, Milani, Milani dupe, knockoff of Milani, all that stuff. I could see why you would think that if you were just looking at a picture of it from the top and you thought that it was roughly the same size and you thought that it was kind of flat, but it's just not. It's like a bubble. It's a round little bubble. It's a round little bubble with a three-dimensional cream blush flower in it. It gives me a little bit Beauty and the Beast vibes, you know, that like flower floating, the rose inside the bell jar that's floating, because it's so sculptural. This is all just to say that when I opened them, I absolutely did have the experience of feeling delighted. I actually think that at this point in the process, when I had like opened them and looked at them but hadn't yet touched them or tried them on, which is kind of like where I'm at now, like we're kind of caught up basically. And at this point in the process, I feel like it's all been delightful. I think that this experience has exceeded my expectations at this point. Okay, let's move in to the juicy details. I'll go ahead now and roll the footage of what the blushes looked like the footage that I took in natural light earlier, just super close up, and you'll just be able to see in even better detail how special and sweet they are and how kind of flawless they are. That's one of the things that surprised me the most. The two colors that I got are called Crown and Brilliant. I did struggle a little bit to get a full sense of the tones and undertones of each color from the pictures and the swatches on the website. In the end, I was kind of just crossing my fingers and guessing. But I picked Crown because it kind of promised to be the most nude, although in person it definitely just looks like, you know, one of those like straight, slightly muted mauves. It'll be interesting to see how it applies to the cheeks. I feel like I do have a lot of cream blushes this color. And then Brilliant is more of a rich coral. I was hoping that it wouldn't be too red, and I don't think it is too red. It looks like it has the potential to read on the face a little bit, maybe more like the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Flushed, which is a blush that I really like. It might be a little bit more coral and a little bit less pink than that, and less pink than Cosmetics Pink Nectar, which is a very similar color to the CoverGirl one, if not the same. But I'm hoping this one will be like a little more coral than those because they're more pink, but without leaning so far into red that it becomes kind of sickly on my cheeks. And I'm glad that I got this one because just looking at them, it's much more exciting. It's like really exciting. Like this is such a beautiful little thing, little product. And this is just like, I feel like the predictable Hannah color of the range. Of course, I would have loved it if they had had something more brown, something like Glossier Dusk, even something like Venetian Rose from Cosmetics, because I don't think that this even has as much brown in it as Venetian Rose does, but we'll see how they look when they're on my face. Okay, how does it apply? I'm kind of nervous. I'm nervous about crushing. I'm nervous about ruining the roses. I brought my 3 favorite brushes. I've been getting questions lately about cream blushes and brushes for cream blushes. So I brought over my 3 favorite brushes to apply cream blushes, and all 3 of them are dirty in that they haven't been like newly washed, so they look a little bit stained, but all 3 of them have been vigorously just rubbed and scrubbed on like a paper towel with a little bit of micellar water, so they're not going to transfer any of this color onto my cheeks. And I do that with my cream blush brushes. I use them over and over again, and I just kind of like wipe them off or rub them off in between uses. So this is the Tom Ford blush brush, and this is the Rephr 05, which is a dupe for the Tom Ford blush brush. They're exactly the same. The quality of the bristles and like the density and everything is pretty much exactly the same. And then this is the Rephr 04. So the 05 and the 04 are both part of the Rephr Core collection. And the 04 is a little bit smaller and a little bit more angled. For cream blushes, I really like a brush that is soft. It's not like super dense and super targeted, just a little bit softer than that, maybe softer than like a super dense foundation brush. But I like for it to not be too big, and I like for the bristles to be kind of together. You know what I mean? Like not just like wish-washing all over the place or flip-flopping all over the place. I like to have that control. But before I start, I'm going to touch it and like talk to you about what it's like. It's so hard. Like it feels like a crayon. And I feel like it would have to be, because otherwise it would just get squashed. It just would be like, it would melt away into nothing. Yeah, I'm like rubbing my finger across it and it's not ruining it. This is so exciting. It feels like a slightly soft crayon or like a slightly melty crayon. It's melty in that I'm getting product transferred onto my finger, but it's not melty in that it's not allowing me to like squash down the petals. Like they're not bending. It's not bendy at all. And I feel like I would have to push really hard to bend the petals to make a dent in it. And it feels like before it bent, it would break. That's the quality of it. And this is the color that I'm getting from there. A pretty good match for what's in the pan. So yeah, I'm rubbing my finger around on the surface and I'll show you what it's done to it. It has sort of flattened it a little bit. Okay, I'm attempting to swatch the other one. So the one that I was just playing with is Brilliant, and this is the one called Crown. So Crown is looking a little bit softer and more sheer, and in that way kind of like a little more nude than I expected. They're swatching with some nice slick pigment. Like it's not too goopy, which I guess of course it wouldn't be because of the situation, like the fact that they have to have kind of like a really hard set base in order for them to hold their shape. But yeah, they're a little bit closer in color than I was expecting. Definitely on camera they look that way. And I'm pleased to see that Crown, which is the deeper one, doesn't look too much like pigment. It looks like a blush that I can sort of build and work with. Okay, let's start with Brilliant because it's the one that I'm more excited about. I'm going into it with the brush. Oh yeah, and the brush is picking up plenty of pigment instantly. And there's been like no measurable effect on this. This is genius. I'm so tickled. Okay, clearly that's like a bright spot of color, and it's definitely a bright color, but it's got like a blur quality to it, a slightly sheer blur quality. I'm gonna take one of my dry brushes that doesn't have anything on it. It's a clean brush. Like losing language. It's like three-dimensional cream blush roses is making me forget how to speak English. I'm just using it to buff it out because it's more pigmented than I was expecting, a little brighter than I was expecting. And of course, I have very, very pale skin, so I have to go kind of light with some of these unless I want a really dramatic blush draping look. Okay, that was effortless. And I do like it. Okay, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm gonna go in with Refer 05, the kind of bigger one that gives me a little bit more drama, into Crown on the other cheek. Actually, I used that dry brush to buff out the other color, and I want to make sure they don't mix. So I'm actually taking the other brush, the Tom Ford brush. Yeah, so this is definitely not that kind of like nudie mauve, that soft nudie mauve that I was expecting. Weirdly, it looks really similar to the other one. Like they look more the same than I thought. And I do think that this is like the softest, brownest, nudist one in the range. And yet it's like quite a bright color. I've been a little blown out lately in the footage, so I'm actually going to turn the white balance or the exposure down one tick and maybe turn down the ring light, so hopefully you can get a better sense of the way that this is looking. I still have these soft boxes lighting me from the side, but I think that that is probably a little more realistic. So you can see that, I mean, look how sort of soft the color looks like it's going to be compared to how bright it's actually looking on my cheek. Even though it's quite bright in real life already, I'm going to build it up even more so you can see. Yeah, like that's the color. It's bright. I love the finish though. It's not dewy. I love a dewy finish. It's not giving me that thing that I love, but I like the way that it diffuses. There's just something really special about the finish, the look. It reminds me of a K Beauty product. All right, I'm going to build up the other one with the other color some more in this lighting so you can see. But this is like a natural application. Like that's how I would wear it probably for every day. And for filming, I might build it up a little bit more with a little bit of a bright spot. And yeah, by comparison, it definitely looks pinker. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, the real shock of the shocker of the video is that these colors don't look anything on the cheeks like I was expecting them to, and they look way more like each other on the cheeks than they do in person. Like these look like really different colors in their pans. I mean, I don't know, in their roses. And on my cheeks, they just kind of look the same. This one's definitely pinker. This one looks the way that I was expecting Brilliant to look, even though it's Crown. I like both of them, but they're definitely both of them are like a look. Definitely they're both like a kind of frostbitten or like wind whipped or, bright spots of flesh or like I got a little embarrassed or I'm all worked up. Both of them have that pretty dramatic blushy look just simply because of the saturation of the color and the tone, the balance of tones in each color. Both of them remind me of the look that I get from the CoverGirl cream blush and the CoverGirl Clean Fresh cream blush in Flushed. And I don't have very many bright blush colors. Most of my blushes are nude and neutral, brown toned, and like a rosy mauve kind of things. Many of my blushes look like this in the pan and also look like this on the cheeks. And so it's kind of fun that they both turned out to be that because both of them are giving me something that is what I don't have very much of in my really relatively robust, for me, blush collection. But I think that there probably isn't one in the range. I know that there's like a very pale, slightly cool toned pink in the range, and maybe that one would be softer and maybe it would be like a little more natural on some people. But it seems like they don't have any nude or like easy to wear blushes in this range. All of them are going to be like kind of punchy because if we couldn't get a soft look from Crown, I don't think we're going to get it from any of them. So I'm going to go ahead and even out my cheeks. I'm going to add some of this blush to this cheek and some of the other blush to the other cheek so that my cheeks are the same color for the rest of the video. Yeah, it's a strong look, and I put kind of barely any on, I feel. In terms of the actual volume of physical product that's on my face, it's really not that much. So the pigment does have this kind of velvety blur thing, but it's also pretty pigmented, and the color's pretty bright, and I think all of that together makes it a pretty strong look. I look like I'm wearing a lot of sort of a soft sheer blush, and I also kind of look like I have a fever. I really like that fevered cheek look. I really like these. I probably don't need to keep both of them because they're so similar in color. And I'll probably end up keeping Crown, which is the one that I thought was going to be the most boring to me because I thought it was going to be like the other ones. And it ended up actually looking more like the few blushes that I have that give me that fevered look than the one that looks like that in the pan. So this more brightly colored one, if I give one away, is probably the one I'll give away. But I liked both of them, and I like the way that they look mixed together. Okay, I turned the ring light back up to normal, but I left the exposure where it was. So hopefully this video won't be as overexposed as my last video. Constant trial and error, you guys, here on YouTube. Let's look back at my list. So how does it apply? We found that out. Does applying it ruin the rose? Not really. I mean, it definitely did change it. You know, like you can, it ruined it to the extent that applying a blush from any compact ruins the surface of the compact. Like it no longer looks perfect. It no longer looks untouched. It looks a little bit roughed around, but it didn't squash the rose. It didn't make it no longer a rose. It just looks like a rose made out of blush that has had some of the blush from it taken off onto a brush and applied to somebody's face. The next question is, how does it look on the cheeks? I wanted to find out about the finish, and I did find out about that. It's not, it definitely isn't dewy, but I wouldn't say it's a flat matte either. I don't tend to like the look of a blush that's like designed to give a matte effect. It's somewhere in between. It's got sort of like a skin-like, almost like a slightly silicone-y sheer quality to it. And then the last question I had on my list was, how are the colors? Again, that was the big surprise. They're both really, really bright. They're bright, and then they've got that kind of like watercolor quality to the way that they end up applying. Yeah, I'm looking at Crown, like I'm looking down at it, looking at the object, and then looking at my face in the mirror, and I'm shocked that this is the look that I've gotten. Even mixing the two of them together, it's just, I'm gonna just dig through my cream blushes really quick and try to find some examples so I can tell you what I mean. Oh yeah, here's a perfect example. So this is the Can Make Cream Cheek in number 16, and you can see that the pan, it looks like they'd be dupes. I mean, this is what I was expecting. I thought that this was going to be the equivalent of the Can Make Cream Cheek in 16. They really, really look similar. And there's the Can Make product on my finger right there, my middle finger. And there on my next finger over is the Winky Lux blush. The one that's on top there, the lighter one, that's the Winky Lux one. So that's the Winky Lux, and that's the Can Make. Well, actually, those swatches don't look that different. No, they do. They do. The Can Make one, the one on the bottom, it's just got a lot more brown in it. I hope that it's reading on camera. So that's kind of it. I mean, it's not kind of it, it is it. I guess all I have to say is I hope that they expand the shade range. And I do think that this would be like a really special gift for someone, even someone who is lukewarm on makeup or doesn't tend to be a makeup lover, just general lovers of beautiful things who might enjoy makeup a bit but kind of don't know where to buy it or aren't prone to buy it themselves. It's such a special thing to have sitting on your vanity. They really knocked it out of the park with the packaging, just the delivery mechanism. And yeah, I can tell that over time the rose is going to get a little squashed, especially if I were to go in with my fingers a lot. I think it would get pretty squashed. Not really quickly, but you know, over time, you're going to be using the blush for a lot longer than you're going to be using the rose. Like the rose is going to get worn away or is going to get squashed away way before the product itself is gone. So if you're wanting it just because you can't stand not having this like three-dimensional cream blush rose, but you know that once it gets squashed and once it's no longer like this Beauty and the Beast evocative thing, you won't love it anymore, you won't use it anymore, then don't buy it, because it's like, it's not going to stay that way forever. And unless you want to buy it just to like look at it, and I'm not a big proponent of that. I feel like makeup it's designed to be used, and like the joy is in the using of it in many ways. But you know, to each her own. Like if you'd like to do that, then that's absolutely fine. And if you do want to do that, if you just want to get it to look at it, you'll be satisfied. Like it's good to look at. I think that because I tend to apply blushes with brushes, I'll be retaining the rose for maybe longer than I would otherwise if I were always applying blushes with my fingers. I think that the warmth of your finger and the pressure of your finger, that is the thing that would destroy the rose shape the most quickly. But with a brush, it's probably going to retain some sculptural quality and definitely some intrigue for a really long time. Because when I was using the brush, I was picking up a lot of pigment without seeing very much damage to the petals of the flower. I said that was pretty much it, and then I said it really was it, and then I talked for like 5 more minutes. But I'm gonna go now, and I will of course report back. If anything changes, you will be the first to know. And if anything has changed for some reason in between when I filmed this and when I posted it, then I'll put it in a pinned comment down below. But I think that I got the idea. I think I got the general idea, and I kind of found out what there is to be found out about this in terms of what matches what you think you're getting when you look at the pictures, when you look at the website, and what surprises you, or what surprised me about the difference between what I thought I was getting and what I was getting. And I hope that all of that has been clarified for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself today, because that is what will make you the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.